You delivered everything you committed to this quarter. Every project, every deadline, every promise you made to your team, your board, your stakeholders. And then you look at the list of commitments you made to yourself at the beginning of the year, the boundary you'd set, the development program you complete, the strategic thinking time that you protect. You haven't kept a single one. Here's what's happening: you're operating from a hierarchy where everyone else's needs rank above your own. And that's not affecting your calendar, it's affecting who you're becoming as a leader. Because every time you break a commitment to yourself, you're losing time. You're losing trust in yourself. Have you ever told yourself, this is the last time I'm going to handle this situation for them? Next time, I'm letting them figure it out. And then the next time comes and you handle it again. Have you ever promised yourself you're going to stop working weekends, made it through Saturday without opening your laptop, and then Sunday afternoon, you told yourself, just this once, I'll get ahead for Monday? Welcome to this episode of Brains and Baubles Live. I'm Davina Dandridge, and today we're talking about the most important commitments you make. Not the ones to your organization, the ones to yourself. You're a director, VP, senior professional, someone with significant responsibility. You're excellent at keeping external commitments. Your reputation depends on it. But you're terrible at keeping commitments to yourself. And that pattern is shaping your future in ways you haven't connected yet. Because your emotions impact your thinking impacts your behavior creates your environment, and your environment determines whether you become a leader you're capable of being or whether you stay stuck managing everyone else's priorities and neglecting your own. I'm going to show you why you break commitments to yourself, what is costing your leadership development, and how to build the capacity to honor your word to everyone, including yourself. Here's what you need to understand about what's actually happening when you break commitments to yourself. You're not a weakling, you're tough, and you're disciplined. But you're operating from a belief system you inherited without examining that system. You were taught that commitment means showing up for other people, that reliability means being available, that good leadership means putting others first. And those things are true to a point. But somewhere along the way, you learn that commitments to yourself only count when no one else needs anything, which means they never actually count. So you make promises to yourself that you have no intention of keeping, or you intend to keep them, but the moment someone else needs you to show up, your intentions disappear. Let me show you what this looks like emotionally. You tell yourself you're going to set a boundary. Maybe you'll stop responding to urgent requests after 8 o'clock. Maybe it's protecting Friday afternoons for strategic work. Maybe it's finally delegating that project you've been holding on to. You announce it, you mean it, and genuinely believe that you're going to keep it this time. And then someone needs something, and your first emotion is guilt. If I don't respond, they'll think I'm not committed. If I don't take this on, they'll think that I'm not reliable. Guilt shapes your thinking. You start telling yourself stories like, it's just this once. It won't take that long. I can do both. Those thoughts drive your behavior. Cancel your strategic thinking time. You take on a new project. And that behavior reinforces the environment that you're in. You just taught yourself that your commitments to yourself are negotiable, that your word to yourself doesn't actually matter, that everyone else's needs are more important than your development as a leader. The next time you make a commitment to yourself, there's a voice that says, you won't keep this either. And you probably won't because you've trained yourself not to. Here's what that pattern is costing you. Every time you break a commitment to yourself, You lose trust in your own word. You stop believing yourself when you say something matters. That shows up in bigger decisions. When you need to make a strategic call, there's a hesitation. When you need to hold a boundary with leadership, there's doubt. Not because you don't know what's right, because you don't trust yourself to follow through. When you're constantly available for everyone else's priorities, you have no emotional capacity left for your own strategic thinking. You're operating reactively instead of intentionally. You're managing instead of leading. That limits your advancement because leaders at the next level aren't rewarded for availability. They're awarded for strategic direction. And you can't develop strategic direction when you're too busy handling everyone else's immediate needs. The leader you're becoming is shaped by the commitments you keep today, not the ones you make to others, the ones you make to yourself. If you're constantly breaking commitments to yourself, you're building a future self who's still reactive, still overfunctioning, still managing everyone else's priorities while neglecting her own development. That's not the leader you want to be. Let me tell you something that most women in leadership don't realize until it costs them a major opportunity. The commitments you make to yourself aren't separate from your leadership development. They are your leadership development. When you commit to setting a boundary and you keep it, you're not just protecting your time, you're building the capacity to hold direction under pressure. When you commit to your own development, you follow through. You're not just adding skills, you're proving to yourself that your strategic priorities matter as much as everyone else's operational needs do. When you commit to strategic thinking time and you protect it, you're not just creating space, you're training yourself to think like a leader instead of a manager. The commitments you keep to yourself determine who you become. Let me show you what this looks like for a VP I worked with. She was leading a division of a Fortune 500 company, exceptional at delivery. Her team trusted her, leadership valued her. She had the reputation for never dropping the ball. But she came to me because she was exhausted in a way that, taking vacations wouldn't fix. And when she mapped out her commitments, she discovered something. She had made 15 commitments to herself over the past 2 years. Development programs she enrolled in, but she didn't complete them. Executive coaching she paid for, but she kept rescheduling. And then strategic planning time. She blocked it out on her calendar, but she consistently canceled them. She had kept none of those 15 commitments, zero. But she had kept every single external commitment, every board presentation, every team deliverable, every stakeholder promise. I asked her what she had learned about herself from that pattern, and she said something that changed, the way that I look at things. She said, I learned that I don't actually believe my development matters as much as everyone else's needs do. That belief was costing her in her leadership. She was already a VP, but it was keeping her from advancing because it was keeping her from developing her emotional capacity. And that's what's required in the C suite. Here's what she realized every time she broke a commitment to herself, she was teaching herself that her word was negotiable. And if her word to herself was negotiable, then her word under pressure was negotiable as well. Senior leadership started noticing this. When she made strategic recommendations, if they pushed back, she folded too quickly. When she set a direction for her division, she changed course at the first sign of resistance. She had already proven her competence, but they doubted her conviction because she had trained herself not to trust her own word. That's what I mean when I say commitments you keep to yourself determine who you become. She had to learn to negotiate with herself differently, to treat commitments to herself with the same integrity she brought to her external commitments. She had to prove to herself that her word actually counted. That's what you need to master the ability to keep commitments to yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. Let me walk you through what needs to shift. You've been thinking about commitments to yourself as selfish, something that you do if you have time, what's left over after taking care of everybody else. But that's the wrong frame. Commitments to yourself are strategic. They're how you build the emotional capacity required for the next level of leadership. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they're about protecting the space you need to develop as a leader. Development time isn't a luxury, it's how you stay ahead of the complexity that you're managing. Strategic thinking time is not optional. It's how you move from managing operations to leading direction. When you keep commitments to yourself, you're not being selfish. You're being responsible for your own growth. The transformation isn't about saying no more often. It's about building the capacity to honor your word to everyone, including yourself. That requires you to negotiate with yourself differently than you've been taught in the past. Most women in leadership negotiate with themselves last. Everyone else needs to get considered first, and if there's anything left, maybe you get to yours. That has to flip. The first negotiation is with yourself. What do you actually need to develop as a leader? What boundaries do you need to protect that development? And then what commitments matter most? Once you're clear on that, then you negotiate with others about how to fulfill their needs while honoring your own. That's not selfishness, that's strategy. So here's what helps you start keeping your commitments to yourself with the same integrity you bring to commitments to others. It's the self gut check method. When you're about to break a commitment to yourself, when the guilt shows up, when someone needs something, when it feels easier just to give in, you pause, you breathe, and then you name what's happening. Then you ask three questions. Is this true? Is this helpful? And is this timely? Is it true that I need to break this commitment? Or am I just uncomfortable with someone being disappointed? Is it helpful to break this commitment? What does it cost my development if I do? Is it timely? Does this need to happen right now at the expense of my commitment, or can it happen in a way that honors both? The self gut check gives you 5 seconds to choose your development over automatic accommodation. The self gut check is what separates strategic commitment from self abandonment. One builds your future, the other abandons it. Let me show you how this works. You committed not to work on Sunday so you can rest and think strategically about the week ahead. It's Sunday afternoon. You're thinking about all the things you could get ahead on if you just opened your laptop for an hour. The old pattern. You tell yourself just this once. You open the laptop, you work, you break the commitment, you prove to yourself again that your rest doesn't matter as much as getting ahead. Now, the self gut check pattern. You pause. Is it true that I need to work right now? Or am I just anxious about Monday? Is it helpful to break my rest commitment? What does it cost my emotional capacity for strategic thinking tomorrow? Is it timely? Will working now actually make Monday better, or will I just be more tired and less strategic? You close the laptop, you keep the commitment, you rest, and you prove to yourself that your word actually means something. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself when it's uncomfortable, you build the capacity to hold strategic direction under pressure. Another example. You committed to finally delegating that project. Your team member asks you a question about it. Your instinct is to just handle it yourself because it's faster. The old pattern, you handle it. You break the commitment to delegate. You prove to yourself that you can't actually let go. Your team member learns not to figure things out because you'll just do it. Self gut check pattern. You pause. Is it true I need to handle this? Or am I uncomfortable with them struggling with it? Is it helpful to take this back? What does that cost my commitment to develop them? Is it timely? Does this need my intervention right now, or can I coach them through it? You coach them. You keep the commitment to delegate. You prove to yourself that you can develop others instead of doing everything yourself. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they're about protecting the space you need to become who you're capable of being. The self gut check method gives you this capacity. You can use it every time you're tempted to break a commitment to yourself. Matthew 5:37 says, "Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay." Let your yes mean yes to your organization, to your team, to your family, and to yourself. When you commit to something for your own development, honor that commitment with the same integrity you bring to external commitments. Because the leader who can't keep her word to herself can't fully be trusted. And they can't be trusted to keep their word to strategic priorities under pressure. The self gut check helps you to do this. You pause before breaking commitments to yourself. You evaluate whether this is strategic or whether you're managing discomfort. You let your yes to yourself actually mean yes. Your future self is built by the commitments you keep today, not the ones you make to others, the ones you make to yourself. When you start keeping commitments to yourself with the same integrity you bring to commitments to other people, everything shifts. Your emotions shift. Instead of guilt when you honor your boundaries, you feel clarity. Instead of anxiety about disappointing other people, you feel grounded in your priorities. Your thinking shifts. Instead of doubting whether you can follow through, you trust your own word. Instead of questioning your strategic judgment, you operate from confidence. Then your behavior shifts. Instead of breaking commitments to yourself automatically, you honor them strategically. Instead of over functioning for everyone else, you protect your development. And that behavior creates a different environment, an environment where your growth matters, where your strategic priorities hold weight, where you're becoming the leader you're capable of being instead of staying stuck managing everyone else's needs. The leader you want to be 5 years from now isn't built by keeping commitments to everyone else while neglecting your own. She's built by honoring your word in every direction, by keeping commitments that develop you as a leader, and by proving yourself that your strategic priorities actually matter. The future version of yourself uses the self gut check before breaking commitments to herself. She asks, is this strategic or self abandonment? She keeps her word even when it's uncomfortable. She builds her future intentionally instead of accidentally. And that creates specific outcomes. Your confidence in strategic decisions strengthens because you've proven you can trust yourself. Your emotional capacity for complex leadership expands because you protected the space to develop it. Your influence grows because you're operating from strategic direction instead of reactive availability. Your future self looks like the leader you've been working hard toward. Not because you got lucky, because you kept the commitments that built her. Emotional sophistication means yes to your organization, your team, and yourself. That's how you build the future you're working toward. Now, let me address something practical. You need support building the capacity to keep commitments to yourself without guilt. You need help evaluating which commitments matter most and how to protect them strategically. This is why I created Sophie, my emotional strategy AI. Sophie isn't therapy. She's strategic guidance for honoring your word in every direction. You can work with the self gut check when you're tempted to break commitments to yourself. You can develop language for protecting your priorities. You can build the capacity to say no without guilt. She's available whenever you need her. Think of Sophie as your private strategist for building the future you're working toward. You now have the self gut check method. Here's the implementation step for this one. Tonight, write down 3 commitments you've made to yourself that you keep breaking, and be honest. Choose one, just one of them, the smallest one that matters. And tomorrow, when you're tempted to break it, pause. Use the self gut check. Is this strategic or self abandonment? Keep one commitment for 1 week. Prove it to yourself that your word counts. That's how you start building your future. Thank you for being here today on Brains and Baubles Live. If you're ready to honor your word in every direction, start with the emotional sophistication map. It shows you where you're keeping commitments and where you're abandoning yourself. Take it at my website, davinadandridge.com. From there, the Self Gut Check course gives you the framework for keeping commitments under pressure. And Sophie provides private support for building this capacity. Your potential is limitless. Your future is waiting for you to keep commitments that build her. Until next time,